What is up, everybody? CP and SJ with you for another week of Every Day We're Covering, where we talk the world of sports, wagering, and having a good time. We're through the first round of the college football playoffs, so that'll be a lot of the talk here today. Kind of a mixed bag. We had a couple of pretty good games for the most part, and then a couple that, obviously weren't all that watchable the entire time. But I guess we can't ask for 100% entertainment, SJ. We're going to take what we can get, but it was definitely a little bit of a mixed bag here the first time around.
Yeah, unless you were kind of maybe trying to fool yourself into something else that had to be a little bit expected, you probably best case scenario, like, come on, let's hopefully we get something like better than what you think on paper would happen. And unfortunately, it didn't go that way. But that's kind of the nature of playoffs that are selected by some type of a panel or committee, whatever you want to call it. You're going to get this stuff to happen when you have these tie-ins and things that have to be sucks have to be kept to no matter what the circumstances. But I mean, now that's past us, and I kind of be surprised if we get any more of anything similar, maybe a blowout, but not to the level of the way these games played out, where two of them at the least weren't even competitive. But even the game that was close, at least the Saturday one was that hard to watch.
Yeah, it was a stinker.
Yeah, and so it's like maybe it wasn't a blowout, but at least you saw some offense with some of those smaller schools in the mix there.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I should preface that too and say that there were a couple of games that were close, I guess, which makes it more interesting to watch, but they weren't necessarily great games either. I don't know that anybody actually this weekend played terrific out of all the teams. I wouldn't say that you're coming out of that weekend thinking, man, that team's playing really good football, because I don't know that any of them really looked that way.
I mean, Oregon was maybe the most opportunistic, and it looked, from the get-go, you kind of knew it was going to happen. But I mean, when Michael Irvin on the sideline is like the biggest storyline, and I know he's kind of wacky, but even then, that's the biggest deal. That game was miserable, but it's one of those instances too. You get the win and you move on, because who cares, you won.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was not a college football lovers paradise this week, and that was anything but. Especially if you don't necessarily care who wins, you just want to be entertained. That was not entertaining.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll get into that. We'll break down the games, our picks for them as well, and then, of course, start to peek ahead to that next round here of the playoffs. We'll talk a little bit about other stuff happening in college football, too, as far as lots of transfers moving around, those types of things. But for the most part, we'll be talking about the games here this week on the show. As we get rolling, we always like to talk about what we're enjoying beverage-wise here over the weekend. So I guess, maybe if the games got out of hand, you just went back to the fridge and enjoyed some more beverages instead. So hopefully you found something good. I just pulled one down here a little bit ago from the old store that I had not had here yet. Of course, that's kind of our goal usually, is we're trying to find stuff that's a little bit different and unique, and give it a shout out if we like it. And I do enjoy this. I don't know. It's not one that you're going to drink a ton of, I don't think, but it is a good kind of winter type of beer. This is Brickway Brewing out at Omaha. They've got one on the shelves now called Bella Diva Chocolate Stout. And
what a name!
Yeah, it's yeah. It does have the artwork to go with it too, I will say, on the can. You definitely got a diva on there, but it does pack a little bit of a punch. 6.8%, so you don't want to be knocking down too many of these either. But definitely. I mean, it is what it says it is. It's a chocolate stout. It's very heavy on the kind of cocoa roasted malt taste. A little bit of some of that kind of espresso hazelnut kind of feel to it too, but not bad. Sometimes you get chocolate stouts and I think that they're like a little bit too I don't know, you almost get that like chalkiness to them a little bit. I don't like that too much when they're too heavy, but this one's not a bad drink. I could see me having a couple of these during a sit down, so I would recommend giving them a try. SJ, what do you got over there?
Well, I'm hoping this is something I haven't mentioned on the show before. It didn't ring a bell, but I have something else to mention just in case. But I know I've mentioned the brewery before, but Mother's down there in Springfield way. I believe I had like a sour or something from there before,
Okay.
so I'm thinking I'm safe here. But if not, like I said, I'll give you another option. But I just went with the coffee stout. That kind of felt like I needed something getting a little nippy around here last couple of days, so need a little bit of antifreeze, get a little warmth going on. But the winter grind is what they call it. kind of basically your standard coffee stout. It's this one's for me though is a little bit of an easier drink because sometimes like I do. I mean, if you like stouts, it's no big deal. But sometimes I can understand how if you want to, I would like to try a stout. I don't know if I like these because
Hmm.
it was always like to me like a misnomer, and a lot of people think that's like you think like the dark beer is like the harsher alcohol and the heavier pour, but that's not always it's not always the case.
No.
And especially with IPA explosion,
Yeah.
we learned that that's not the lighter those are, the more than knock you on their ass. So, but I think people, when you see a Guinness pour and you're kind of not much of a drinker, you're like, oh man, I bet that stuff's harsh. Like, no, not really.
Hmm.
But
No.
I mean, this one's really an easy drink, and you could probably have a couple and still be have your wits about you, but also not have that that gut a heavy gut there. So
Hmm.
this one's good. But I will mention, I shared with you, I was out at a little local Irish pub the other night and just kind of taking in the atmosphere, and had a little bit of live music going on. I don't know what kind of six string or whatever you call that in the Irish version, some type of a little a ukulele of sorts. But he was going to town. It was kind of fun. But they had the holiday options as they do with different types of cocktails and stuff. And there was a pecan old fashioned. I had to
Ooh.
wrap my lips around that. That thing was money. And then this is one of those places too where they're kind of like integrate like actual food in it. So I mean,
Mm.
the actual pecans were in it. I had some fruit in, like the cherries, of course, like always with the old fashioned. But I mean, you're getting a little bit more of that mixologist variety where you're getting the ingredients, not just the premix bottles put here and here poured. But no, it was really good. I was planning on getting me a red ale, which I may have as well. But I was like, man, when you saw that, I was like, I haven't really. I know it's not like earth shattering, but I don't remember going to many places and kind of seeing that option. So I was like, that's something you just got to try when you see it.
Yeah, that sounds delicious. I did have one too last night at an establishment over in the Des Moines area that I quite enjoyed as well. It was like an orange dream mule, is what they called it, and just had a little bit more of that like vanilla. And actually, it was different because it was made with pretty sure it was made with vanilla crown, which you don't normally think of as mule, but it blended
That's
well. I mean, it went well with the ginger, and they had you could tell they had the legit ginger going on there. It had a little bit of real stuff in there because it had that little bite to it as well. Yeah, it was good stuff. I enjoyed it for sure.
Yeah, I'm not a vodka guy, so that those meals usually aren't my alley. But you throw a little crown in there instead, that sign
Hmm.
me up. I'll be all over that one.
Yeah, it was a delicious little twist to it. I liked it. And yeah, that is a fun time about this time of year too. If you go to a lot of places will do a, special menu for the holiday season. And of course, usually people are a little bit more in that mood as well. They're more willing to try something different, I think. So
Need a
that's why
break
they do
from
it.
all the
Yeah.
stress of the things
Yep.
too. So
Yep. You drown your sorrows with a credit card bill that's showing up on your desk, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, good stuff. So yeah, I'd recommend getting out and trying those too. If you have some of those local establishments that you like to go to, usually most places do a pretty good job of mixing that up this time of year. All right, let's dive into it here with the football, of course, college football playoff first round, and we'll talk a little bit about the storylines to this too. But we'll just kind of first off go game by game with and we'll let you know how our picks went as well. SJ kept us afloat, going pretty good with his picks here this weekend. Mine were not near as good, but did sneak one in there that helped out the cause. So overall, we kind of went 50-50 on our picks total. So that was good. And then a couple of them that I lost, I don't really feel bad about either because it wasn't like it was totally off base. It was right there for the taking. Teams just didn't make it happen. And the first one is a prime example of that because, of course, Oklahoma gets out to a 17-0 lead and then sees it evaporate as Bama comes charging back to win the game 34-24. I was on Oklahoma. They were getting a couple of points, which was odd, at home. You wouldn't think that would be the case normally. Of course, they played a very close game the first time they played, so you kind of expected it to be good again. But man, the way the game started, you would have thought, and especially if you're a live betting person, you might have bought into that hard early and been in trouble because it certainly looked like the line of scrimmage was being dominated by Oklahoma. Bama wasn't getting pressure. It looked like had plenty of time. They were running the ball a little bit, here and there too. It was just a good mix of things going on. And then as soon as they had that botched punt, it seems like it all went to hell after that. and it just things went downhill. And then when you got to the second half, it was almost the opposite. I mean, Bama was getting all kinds of pressure. They're sacking him left and right. The line of scrimmage was being won the other way around, especially on Bama's offense, too. They were starting getting a little bit of push, which they didn't at all at the beginning of the game, and which they've struggled with during the season, honestly. So, I don't know. It definitely was a tale of two halves, but, boy, it feels like a game that Oklahoma let slip out of their grasp for sure.
Yeah, it was weird too how it switched on that play is like just forgot to kick the ball, I guess. That was
Yeah.
it wasn't like it was a bad snap.
No.
He didn't I mean, he got decent amount of pressure, but it wasn't like he was like through in seconds and it was like, oh, you're like sometimes the punter's just kind of there by himself and they kind of hang him out to dry. And to me, that wasn't the case on that one. And the bigger that was a huge play, of course, to get Alabama going because
Yeah,
before that, they
nothing
haven't done
before.
anything worth a damn. But to especially at the end of the half, I thought that, of course, it looks like it now. But for me, honest, Oklahoma's like, you got the lead here. Let's just get out of the half. They cut it to 7, and let's just get out of the half and have a 7-point lead. But you kind of try to roll the dice,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know what they're gonna do there in the last. What they had like less than 2 minutes to go down the field. I mean, of course, you always want to get points, but you got to do it wisely. But you throw a short a corner or a sideline route,
Yeah.
gets go pick six, and at that point, it's like, I mean, there's a lot of game left, but in my mind, it's like, oh crap, this isn't good. Like if
No.
you're I mean, this could snowball, and it did. Not saying that was a given because, of course, you go back and connect the dots now. Like, oh yeah, that was stupid. Yeah, well, even in the moment though, I still think that was a little bit questionable. When that's just not the type of team they've been. They haven't been like a look at this game when they played the first time. It was about as ugly as you can get, and that's what you
Mm-hmm.
wanted. You get those 17 points and you run the ball and you punt and play defense. That's
Yeah.
To me, that would have been the better recipe because you're just not an offensive. I know there's been, they got athletes, there's been plays here and there, and they got some speed on the edges, and the quarterback can make a play here and there, but you're not really designed to spread the field and just start chucking it around.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I don't obviously none of us know what the story was on that play, but it was a gift. I mean, he threw it right to the guy, like it, and obviously the receiver must not have been doing what Mateer thought he was
Mm.
going to do, but still, I mean, it's one of those where I know it's one of those where you turn and you throw it right away is basically what they do on the play, but like there had to have been a little ounce of his eyeballs that were like, this isn't right, like. I mean, he threw it right to him. Like it wasn't the defender had to do nothing but just stand there, catch it, and walk in. Like it was so easy.
Well, you think you'd have to not necessarily like sail it totally, but at least throw it high into the sideline. So if the corner's going to catch it, he's got to make a hell of a play, almost like a one-handed catch, or tiptoe, and then he falls out of bounds. But I mean, like you said, he caught it and just ran straight.
Yeah,
He
there's
didn't have
nothing.
to make a move. He didn't have to watch the sideline or anything. So that was obviously like a communication issue or something. A check that didn't get to the sideline or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But no, that's just odd that even with all that considered, the fact that it was just like dead and lifeless in that stadium, that whole second half, it felt like,
Yeah,
and just I understand it's you're kind of against it, and then momentum's not on your side, but man, that's supposed to be the advantage of having these home sites. Is there's there was all Oklahoma people there. You would have thought they could. I know they can't do anything on the field, but you could at least make it a little more hostile than it was. It was like you could hear crickets in there.
yeah. It was an awesome atmosphere at the beginning of the game when they had momentum going and the crowd got into it. That yeah, I mean it was going. You didn't think that, and that was the other part of it too. That was just so surprising that they would have let that go away because they had everything going in their direction. I mean, crowds into it. That's what you want. But yeah, it totally turned and it flipped, and yeah, it didn't make it very tough on Bama in that second half. I mean, obviously the last time they played, Oklahoma took advantage of a lot of mistakes by Alabama too. They took the ball away a few times, but that's kind of what you thought might happen again. Just the way Alabama had been playing recently. They hadn't been doing much on offense. You thought they were probably going to get risky a little bit at times to try to get the ball moving. And it seemed like it turned the other direction where Oklahoma just tried too many things. I mean, you're basically giving away 10 points there with those two plays. And that's not something you can do against a good team in that type of game and expect to still win. And lo and behold, they lose by 10 points. So it's just a really, really tough thing, I'm sure, for their fans to swallow. I mean, yeah, you had a good run, but man, you were right there. You had the game in your hands, in your control, and you let it go away.
Well, it's not going to be an easy thing to get back there, especially when you kind of had everything kind of. They were one of those teams this year where everything just kind of fell
Mm-hmm.
the right way for them to take advantage. But they took advantage, but still, it's not always going to work that way. And I mean, last thing here on the game is can't totally let. I mean, you can't let the kicker off the hook either. That's a wasn't that the Lou Groza award winner there
Mm-hmm.
at Oklahoma with the short pants, and misses two field goals there in the last 2 minutes where. Of course, the last one was, desperation. Who if he makes it, whatever. But
Yeah.
you make that first one with over 2 minutes left. You're
Mm-hmm.
down by seven. I mean, they forced a punt, get the ball back, and who knows what happens.
Yeah.
So that can't be that. That's not necessarily on any type of strategy or coaching. That's you have the best kicker in the game, according to the accolades, and they just shank it. So
Mm-hmm.
but you also don't need to give up a 17-point lead. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just that, but that was a little bit I'm sure they didn't have that one in the strategy, session there in the timeout or in the break late saying, "All right, we're going to kick a field goal here and miss it and then we'll see what happens." It's the other way. We're going to try to make this thing and cut to 7. So,
Yeah.
that was probably, obviously that was a big factor in how things played out at the end, but they did I mean, they did enough to lose the game and that's what happens.
Yeah. So I missed on my side of it because I had Oklahoma. SJ had the overs in this game, so that came true. Obviously, a 40 and a half
And
was
that
all you
wasn't
could get
looking
to.
good for a while, so I
No.
can't be like, "Oh, yep, saw that." I mean, yeah, that was an ugly first half, and then or ugly start to the game, and then Oklahoma gets rolling a little bit, but you're like, "Well, we still need some points from the other side."
Mm-hmm.
17 because that was my concern as looking at the play perspective of it. Get up 17, you just coast.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
not trying to score and you're just shutting them down. And it ends up being 17-10 or something like that. Like, gosh, or even 17-14, and you're well short of that. So that I guess that was mine. But once Alabama got rolling, it kind of took those took that nervousness away. But again, I mean, the final score looks okay, but it was a bit of an ugly game at times.
Yeah, yeah, not stellar play from either team for sure. There was a lot of miscues and a lot of stalled drives in that game for sure. Moving on to Saturday to start the day, we had Miami and A&M down in College Station at Kyle Field. 11 a.m. kick there on ABC. And yeah, I mean, you kind of alluded to this earlier. Turned into a pretty stinker of a game as far as execution is concerned. I mean, yes, you want to give a lot of credit to the defenses, and I did think that they played well, but no, in my mind, no college football defense is good enough to prevent both teams from scoring more than 3 points 3/4 of the way through the game. That just should not happen. Offenses should be good enough to put some points on the board, and and a lot of that too. Both of these teams was they would get close. They'd get down to the 30, they'd get down to the 25, and then it'd be, a couple sacks, and then they're backed up, and now they got to try a field goal. Well, the wind was howling. That played a factor in it. I mean, I don't know how many, what was it, like 5 kicks between the two teams that they missed? It was a ton. So that was an issue as well. Some of it was just in their heads after they started missing early, too. But, yeah, I mean, give the defense credit, but at the same time, the offenses did not fully execute a drive. And what's funny is, at the end of the game, Miami, you think they're just setting up for a field goal. They ended up going with the nice end around there to Tony to get him to score. And then all of a sudden it's like A&M can just bolt down the field. And they went all the way down to the 4-yard line in like a minute. It's like, where the hell has this been all game? And of course, they still come up short with the interception there at the end to seal it. But yeah, I mean, pretty ugly overall, I guess, as far as, what you would want out of a playoff game for sure.
I mean, at one point I was like, well, I guess if they lose 3-0, Miami, we still get the cover there with 3.5. That was my line of thinking, just because it was so. I was like, no one's gonna score here. So I mean, you talk about the lack of offense or the how terrible they performed on that side of the ball. And Miami doesn't even total 300 yards of offense.
Hmm.
They throw for 103 for the whole game, 103 yards in a game. That's a quarter for some. On a good drive. That's a good drive,
Yeah.
honestly, not a quarter. But then A&M's not, on their side, they get over 300, barely 326, but they only rush for 89 yards on 35 attempts.
Yeah.
And it's not like you could be
Wow.
like, "Oh, well, maybe," and
Mm-hmm.
you said the drive stalled, and you're like, "Well, it's probably like a couple penalties, mistakes like that." Either team only had 4 penalties the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like it was just, it
No,
was
it
just
wasn't. Yeah.
it was just
It was
bad
sacks or
offense.
yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't anything where you're like,
negative
oh, you
plays.
can see the mistakes. These refs are calling holding on every play or anything like that. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it was kind of windy, but I mean, what was the temperature? You're playing, a beautiful day
Oh
there
yeah, no
compared.
kidding. It
It's not
looked
like you're
great.
playing in a snowy northern school or anything like that. You got great weather. Like figure it out. And we got two of the teams that have been, I mean, fairly explosive throughout the whole season.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the kind of like numbers that you would think out of a game that was held in East Lansing or something,
Yeah.
like no,
Like
this
a
is
Mac This was the Mac game on a Tuesday night, with the blizzard, and
yeah.
they might still get over 300
Yeah.
yards.
Yeah. Well, and that I mean, and I guess we'll get to this too, but that's another thing that kind of I don't know what how you say it. I guess it just kind of irks me a little bit. We're talking about a guy here on one side that was looking for what $5 million or whatever plus to go be a quarterback for another team. Lands at Miami, and you're just you're telling me he got his moment, he got his chance to shine, and he threw for 100 yards in the game. Like, is it really worth it? Sometimes what we're trying to compensate these guys for. I mean, I think that's going to be something that starts to eke into people's minds a little bit too when they're open up the pocketbook.
Yeah, and especially if that game ends up going the other way, because that'll be really easy to be like, "What are we doing here?" So
Mm-hmm.
they escape for a week. I don't think. I mean, I know. I mean, I'm assuming they're not going to get past Ohio State, but I do know if they play offense like they played this last game,
Yeah.
that's gonna be they'll lose by 20 plus points. So I better get it figured out quick. And I mean, luckily it's a neutral site deal, and the weather shouldn't be too much of a factor in this case again. But yeah, that just was I mean, as bad as you could play and still win, I guess you're happy about that, like I said with the other games. But this was definitely, and to me, the worst thing about it is then, of course, this was like bound to happen because there's going to be at least one or two bad games just by the odds of playing that this many games. But then you get people like, well, see, this team shouldn't have been in, or that
Yeah.
team should have been
Mm-hmm.
like, "Dude, just move on, shut up. Like
Yeah.
you had your chance, you didn't do it, and now your coach is probably going to go to the Giants. So the how shows how loyal he is to your team. I mean, that's Notre Dame, of course, we
Yeah.
speak of. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, just that's the thing that just is annoying the most. It's like they didn't get in. Move on, dude. That's
Yeah.
that's how it is.
And we don't know that. I mean, they could have played the exact same game. We have no
They could
idea.
have played James Madison, got freaking mollywopped. They
Yeah.
lost to Marshall on their home field, what, 2 or 3 years ago with that same coach. So nothing's a certainty.
Yeah, it's yeah. I don't know. It's pretty wild sometimes what people try to jump to conclusions with. Um, Yeah, so we went different ways on this game. You had Miami, I had A&M. So again, I don't feel bad about it. I mean, A&M had their plenty of chances to, win this game and execute, and they didn't do it. But it does bring back, the old skeleton in the closet, I guess, there in College Station for sure. I certainly thought that maybe this would be the game they at least where they get one. They get one, kind of appeases people. They go on, think, oh, we're making progress. Well, now you're gonna. I mean, I realize it's only a 7-point loss, and you were right there on the goal line to tie the game at the end, but you're still gonna have a whole lot of people that are just in the back of their minds like, are we ever gonna be able to win one of these damn games? When it really matters. And honestly, to me, that's one of the toughest environments to play in college football. That stadium is wild. Like three tiers like that and that many people. Like it's a cool scene when you see it on TV for sure. And they were into it. I mean, I don't blame the crowd. They were going the whole game. But yeah, to put that much, have that much behind you, I guess, and never be able to, get over the big hump is just wild. And they're going to have a lot of doubts there for in College Station again heading into next year.
Yeah, you want to talk about money spent and evaluating that, and I'm sure it's not gonna, people that are supporting programs like that just think, oh, it doesn't matter, I'll throw more at it. So it's not like they're gonna take a step back. But when you look at, any of these lists of, Forbes or like, these sports business type of entities put together, they're always towards the top of money spent on recruiting or travel budgets or
Mm-hmm.
any sorts of those things, and that return on investment has never come to fruition. It's one thing that's like our, there's a lot of teams that are trying to get back or in a drought maybe or just had a little bit of a downturn. But they've yet to ever see the
Yeah.
the fruits, fruits of their, money spent there. I was gonna say fruits of their labor, but that wouldn't,
No, that
you
doesn't
know,
equate.
finding some little black coffee in your backyard is not really labor, so I'm not so we're not gonna give give them credit for that, but, yeah, that and whatever, I mean, it is what it is. I guess you just gotta maybe go a different route though and try to and I do think with this coach, they did a little bit different, so you gotta give give them credit for that.
Yeah,
They
yeah, I
didn't
do.
just go out and get the big name guy,
Hmm.
but it you know, I mean, it's still, it hasn't been there that long, and they're already in the playoffs, so
That's
it's
true.
hard to be patient, but there's a lot of schools that would take a spot in the playoff, and kinda try to build off it, but there's gotta be the hell of a level of, like, yeah, that way of what you mentioned of just being like, "I don't know if this can ever happen," because that's just, like, the nature of, a fan or especially just, like, human nature to
Hmm.
be like, "You haven't seen it done, so it's hard to imagine," but
Yeah.
everyone just bring up Indiana, that's how you solve every conversation,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Just,
Yep.
"Oh, yeah,
They
they
can
haven't
do
won
it.
anything," but just keep bringing them up, so
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, no, I mean, that's tough pill to swallow, especially when you have a home field advantage and a
Hmm.
team coming in that's beatable, and you play terrible. That's probably
Hmm.
the hardest thing. If maybe they lose, let's say each team gets 20 more points or something, it's like 20 or it's 30-23 or something, or if it's 31-28, you're like we lost, but just wasn't our day, whatever. But
Yeah.
to play that bad in that big of a moment, that's
Hmm.
more what sticks with you, and that's kind of been the history of that program, honestly. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm thinking back to when Kansas State beats them in that freaking or in I guess they got that one though in the conference championship game. That was their claim to fame there when
Yeah.
RC Slocum had the boys knocking them off. But
Hmm.
things like that, just like that was when they were no one expected anything of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whenever they're the kind of the big dog, it's like, well, I don't know about this.
Hmm. Yeah, and you are right. I do think there is a little bit of a disclaimer as far as the current situation goes, because I do think that Elko was a different choice and does seem more promising to this point than some of the other guys that they brought
But the
in the
leash isn't
past.
long either. That's the thing with this school.
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing.
I
Yeah,
mean, and it's
they want
not saying
now.
that's fair, but that's
No,
how it is.
yeah, I agree. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I guess see, yeah, how do they handle it? Because you know what the reaction is from the fans, but does the program still take this and take another step forward? Is the question for them, and I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how that rolls. Next two games, we'll go down the list here. The Tulane Ole Miss. We both missed on this one because I was expecting a little bit more as far as the points are concerned, because I thought that Tulane would put up some more on the board to keep this thing going. And you were taking to Tulane to try to cover there and kind of play better than they did the first time around. Obviously, a lot going on with the Ole Miss program outside of football, so you also kind of thought that would be a little bit of a factor. They started not I mean, they weren't setting the world on fire immediately, but it didn't take long for you to understand that this game wasn't going to be a game. And Ole Miss you know took control of it. 41-10 ends up being the final. Again, I thought that Tulane at least would get the offense going a little bit. It's a couple more touchdowns, and then we're right there. I mean, we got to 51. It was 56 and a half was the total. So I thought, because I think last time they played, I think it was 45 that they got to, or 55, excuse me, that they got to. So I'm like, they can do that in this game, but no, didn't happen. And yeah, obviously, just Tulane. They were just outmatched. They didn't play well, and couldn't keep up the pace there early on. And once they were down, you just knew it was out of their hands.
That was just a bad matchup on the field, and probably just even from the coaching part of it on down, because just they couldn't figure anything out. When you play a team, you might lose twice, but it's one instance it's a good game at least. But this is just not. It's not their. It's not doesn't promote what they're good at. So they just
Hmm.
look pretty bad. I mean, you start the second half and you're still only down 14 though. So I was like, well, maybe we got something going here and they can hang. But then just rattle off a few couple touchdowns there in the third quarter, and it's pretty much over after that, because once they
Hmm.
start, that was, I guess, my thing is like Tulane had to, as you said, get some offense going,
Yeah,
score a few points here. And if you could, hang pace at least within 10 to 14, just hang around, then maybe who knows what, or even, get down by 21, but then you score again and stick within, a smaller double digit. But once it was proven they were unable to, you know, get any points on the board. And who's gonna win that way without above average or even an excellent defense, and neither of these teams has that. So
yeah.
yeah, once rolling is just kind of like this carbon copy of the same game. So
Mhm.
that wasn't totally surprising. I just was thinking that maybe there was a path to with the familiarity being something there
Yeah.
and the chaos surrounding it. But I guess this was our this was the long shot of the week, and it didn't even come close. But yeah, maybe yeah. I don't know. Maybe Ole Miss will get their comeuppance here next round because I just can't imagine. You saw some of the comments after. It's like, man, these guys are there's something else with their with their just the way they're approaching things. Like, man, just chill out. You still got a job. What are you so mad about?
Yeah, yeah, no kidding. Yeah, interesting way that played. Like I said, I'm with you. I just thought that it would be a little bit different this time, and it was not. The last game of the night, similar story, but I think James Madison started to do a little bit later what you thought they might be able to do earlier. Oregon obviously blew this thing open early in the game, and that's a team like that's not the scenario that you have a path to success. We all know if you're the underdog, you've got to hang around. You got to make the other team nervous. Then they start making some mistakes, and then you have a chance to pull it off at the end. They couldn't do that early to keep it close. Now they clawed their way back a little bit, and I do feel good about that because I was taking them to cover the number at 21.5, and that was looking hairy there for a long time. But they did get some offense going there in the second half and got some scores up there to get it back within that, which I thought they would do. You were looking for the overs, no problem on that front because Oregon did it by themselves, so that's an easy issue. But yeah, I just it sucks the way that it played out. Not that I'm gonna, not that I sit here and think after watching that James Madison has any chance to beat them. They're not going to. But could they have made it interesting for longer? I think they could have. It just didn't play out that way, the way the game went.
I don't know if it's necessarily the environment, but as far as just being across across the ball, across the line of scrimmage from a team, maybe the just seeing Oregon across from you was enough to kind of get them out of sorts because I know it was a different situation. Your game's pretty much said and done, but they were able to do some things there late in the game and in the second half. So it's like, well, maybe if you get a big play early or something here, but I mean, early on it was whatever could go wrong for them
Yeah.
kind of did.
Hmm.
And or is every time you look at it, like start kind of casually watching because I'm like, ah, this game's not that
Yeah.
interesting. And then every time you look at Oregon scored, Oregon scored, Oregon
Yeah.
scored, you're like,
Uh-huh.
what the hell's going on? Then they freaking like down did they get like a safety or something on like a kickoff or almost nailed it at the
Oh,
one
is
or
that the
whatever they
one?
end up
Yeah.
calling.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, the one, yeah, yeah. Almost got a safety on that. Like that when that tap, that's just not your night. And the better team, I think won. We can probably say that
Yeah.
without any without any pause there. But I think they could have maybe gave him a better game. But that's what you got to do when you're I guess you're obviously the favorite, but also like, kind of not expected, not much expected from the underdog. You got to get on them early and keep them down because
Hmm.
we've seen games where the hanging around is the thing that keeps them in it. And that's what you're kind of hoping for is just a, big play here. If something crazy happens, you get a trick play or something of that sort. But I mean, I think James Madison, even from the beginning, even when they were down, they were playing hard. It's just like they couldn't I just couldn't really match the talent on the other side of the
Yeah.
ball.
Yeah. Well, and I will give Oregon a lot of credit too because they finally look like the Oregon that we come to think of. They were throwing long bombs, hitting them on the money. Moore played really well. He was throwing the ball really well. They ran great routes. Yeah, I mean they showed their talent on the field, and obviously it's very tough for a school like James Madison to match that at all. It's not going to be the way that they win. They're not going to win one-on-one matchups, so to speak, and that's what Oregon broke it down to, and they did a great job of that. Um, at the end of the day, I think the thing that kind of sucks about the way that those two games played out is it's very easy for the narrative to be that, well, what the hell are we doing? Why are we letting these teams into this playoff? Which, I mean, is there a degree to that? Maybe. But this is the way that we created it forever. When it came about to begin with. We always knew there was going to be at least one of these teams with the group of five that gets in. In most years, that's a team that has one loss and beat a couple of pretty good teams during the season. Now, does it speak to the larger issue, I guess, with college football? I think maybe that's more so why we can't say these teams are the ones that you want there anymore, because it's that much harder now for those schools to have the guys that can compete and win those games. You know, when we think back of the Boise States of the world, when they were beating Oklahoma and beating, TCU, these big teams, like, at the time, it was because they had enough guys that were good enough players that stuck around and were probably a lot of them, juniors and seniors that went through the program, got better at playing football. And now, obviously, we know that a lot of these guys, if they get to that level, they have an opportunity to go elsewhere, and a lot of them do. So I think it does become that much more difficult for those schools and those programs to achieve those types of competitive games like they used to, where I think it would be perfectly fine to say they belong in that situation. Now it's a lot harder, and I think that's why it's starting to show up on the field more.
Yeah, I mean, depth has always been kind of the thing that separates the, I guess, what you're going to call it, the top programs or the bigger schools from the smaller ones, and now it's just even more so than it was before because of what you mentioned, the transfer. And in some years, it's just like bad matchups because
Yeah,
it doesn't mean that it's like, oh, this is the we should never do this again because it failed one time. And who know, maybe I don't know if it's a failure or not. What if Oregon goes on a run and wins the whole thing, and then
it's
they end
true.
up being
Yeah.
like, oh, maybe that wasn't that bad of a loss. They beat everybody 15 like last year. Ohio State did that thing and didn't think much of them coming into the playoff. And
Yeah.
the teams that get buys were the best teams and all. I don't know if anybody can beat them. And then they all lose. Last year after taking a week off, and then they come back and
Hmm.
play, and they all get beat.
Hmm.
Not saying that's going to happen this year, but
Yeah.
just a little bit of a. And you got the break, and you just also have the online aspect of it, and just the I guess the perspective of most people these days to get people to watch whatever shows they have or listen in. But it's the overreaction is just always going to be there,
Hmm.
and just a little amplified. But it was, I mean, they wouldn't say that neither was obviously competitive. You can't say that, and they both lost. But I mean, all you got, how many games do you see like that on a week in and week out
Hmm.
basis throughout the season? And that's even again amongst conference
Yeah.
foes. Like,
Within.
it's not
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
just that. Yeah, so that happens within all the other big conferences as well. It's just someday, you're locked in, you got a good game plan, you get a couple big plays, maybe some turnovers, the other team plays like crap, and you end up winning by 25, 30 points. That's just the nature of sports. Like, I don't think it sucks that, every game can't come down to the last play, but that
Yeah.
doesn't
It's not
happen
gonna
at
happen.
any
Yeah.
level, in any postseason, in any sport.
Hmm. Well, and I guess the other thing that kind of I was thinking about too, and I'm hearing some of the the talking heads say like, well, what are we doing with this? Blah blah blah. Like, we expand this thing a little bit more, which we know is going to happen already. Are we even talking about it? Like, I mean, I think even four more teams, and then you're not having that many people that upset about it. I think it's only because we're talking about a first round with 8 teams, and then you're getting right down to the final 4 games, so to speak. You throw in a couple more, a few more teams in there, and I don't think anybody's that upset. Like, oh, okay, well, yeah, that one team got in, but so did the other ones that we were arguing about too right now. Like,
Well, then in theory, your playing games would be more evenly matched too.
yeah, 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 true enough. So I don't know. I think that's why I think that gets a little bit overblown too, because we go to 16, Notre Dame, BYU, they're both in, and then what are we really arguing about beyond that? Because I don't know that there was much beyond that you really had much to argue about. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Obviously, we'll have arguments no matter what, but I think some of that takes care of itself as we move on down the road. But like I said, what I was pointing out, I think that also is a factor too, because if kids continue to just leave every time they have a good season from somewhere, then that makes that much more difficult for those programs to be able to compete on this stage for sure. But obviously, they did enough to get to that point and earn their spot this year, so it is what it is. So that's how the games went out, how our picks played out there. And that sets up, of course, the next round of games here as we move on into the final 4 games, so to speak, here with the 4 quarterfinal teams or that are awaiting here in the next round, and we'll get to those games not too far down the pike here as we start on New Year's Eve day will be the next one. As Miami takes on Ohio State, that'll be the first one. That's 6:30 that night on New Year's Eve, and then we go into New Year's Day. It'll be Oregon, Texas Tech, followed by Alabama, Indiana, and then Ole Miss, Georgia. Will finish it off at 7 o'clock there on New Year's Day. So we'll get a good juicy holiday there to sit and watch some football. Certainly, of course, name wise, yeah, we get some great matchups now here in this next round. That's just the way it's played out, and honestly, I think we'll get some good matchups out of this too in a couple of these games at least. A couple others, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if they can hang around. Like you said, I think this is one where Miami, if they don't turn the page on the offensive playbook here, they're going to be in trouble against this Ohio State team. Yeah, granted, Ohio State had a rough outing their last one, but you don't expect that 2 games in a row from that kind of team. And like you just alluded to, we saw this last year from Ohio State. Didn't necessarily have the good finish into the regular season, but boy, they looked real good when it came playoff time and kind of dominated their way to the championship. And that's the kind of team I think you expect to show up in this moment. Miami's going to have a tough hill to climb in that one, I think.
Yeah, that's a favorable matchup for sure. But that's what happens when you're a top seeded team. You kind of get that. I think that Oregon and Texas Tech game is going to get wacky. It's going to be
Mm-hmm.
it might feel like I mentioned last time about how my love for the Holiday Bowl, and it's going to be way bigger stakes. That's going to feel like one of those games just going. It's in the Orange Bowl, but it's going to feel like a Holiday Bowl with the points put up. I think, and as of now, I look at it, Oregon's getting a point and a half favorite right now, so that's interesting.
Yeah, that is an interesting one.
Not trying to hate again, but man, it's wild to see Indiana as 7-point favorite over Alabama too. That's I don't know. I mean, I might take the points on that one just to be like, I think Indiana could win, but it might be within like a field goal or something,
Mm-hmm.
less than 7. And I mean, if you want to get Georgia, now's the time to do it. Ole Miss, you made your statement last week, and now's the time to. We talked about A&M not getting over the hump, kind of put up or shut up moment right now.
Yeah, they have their opportunity. Um, yeah, looking at those, like, yeah, my some of my initial reactions to how the lines sit, like, yes, I believe Tech is getting no love again, like they have not before. I don't understand that. I guess, yeah, Oregon did play really well this last game, but I think people are underestimating how well-rounded that Texas Tech team is. It's not just that they have some offense like they normally have. They got pretty damn good defense. Um, this is what I immediately texted to a couple guys as we were watching that Oklahoma meltdown. In the last round, I was like, watch. Ain't this the kind of shit that's going to happen? Like Bama's going to turn around and go freaking beat Indiana, aren't they? I mean, isn't that what we all expect at this point? Like,
Yeah,
not what anybody
well,
wants to happen, but
well, when you're looking at the bracket, that's why whoever gets out of that Oregon and Tech game might have a hell of a draw if that does happen. Because I think even if Oklahoma wins, there's a lot of people are thinking like it's not totally impossible that 8-9 knocks off the one just the way that one sets up. So way that game would set up. So yeah, that was kind of the I guess when you're looking at a long shot bet or whatever, something a thing of like whoever won that Oregon, provided that Oregon got through their first round, which now we know they have.
yeah.
But it did set up nicely for that 4 and 5 seed to kind of make a run here, and we'll see how it plays out. But it's not out of the realm of possibilities that you
Yeah.
get a 4 or 5 team in the freak or even lower if Alabama gets hot here. You get a freaking
Mm-hmm.
8-9 seed in the finals.
Yeah. And I'm not going to sit here and like discredit Indiana either because I've done that enough and they've
Yeah.
proved me wrong. I mean, they just keep winning and they're
Well,
certainly good enough to do it.
pick
But
the 1 and 2 to get to the finals and be boring. We're just saying like, what if this happened?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
this.
yeah.
It's not like you're like, there's no way because when you get to the 1 versus the 8, even in March Madness or other types of playoffs, you're like, that's not happening. But with this football deal, it's like it's a different type of seeding thing
Mm-hmm.
because you don't have it's just 12. It's not, you
Mm-hmm.
don't have you're not it's not a 1 versus a 8
Mm-hmm.
and out of that region, and
Mm-hmm.
then you have another, 4 other 8s.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like really the
Yeah.
32nd team.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
we're talking about the legitimate 8th team
Yeah.
versus the first.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
a huge gap often in that.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. And I guess yeah, I mean, what that does, I think, is just kind of puts in our mind the what do you, I don't even know how you term it, like, the the crap that you expect that just because of history, like, that seems like football does that a lot more than other sports for some reason. And it's just the kind of shit that you would, it's like, oh, this would annoy me, so it's probably going to happen, right? Like, that's the feeling I get, I guess, from that game. So I don't know, it'll be interesting to see it. Not that not that Alabama set the world on fire by any means, but it just feels like this sets up for them well in that moment.
Oh. And can you imagine those freaking smug SOBs on ESPN if
Oh god
Alabama
damn
makes
it,
the run?
yeah.
Like, see, they told us they shouldn't be in.
Yep,
They told us they shouldn't, yeah.
that's exactly
Like,
why it's going
that's
to happen.
I mean, that might be enough. Well, that might be one way to get me to go root for Indiana, at least
Yeah,
half-heartedly.
yeah,
Be like, just to have not to hear those assholes for a few weeks.
exactly. And then that last game, I don't know. I guess going into this, like, I wasn't sure. I guess a week before, like in the conference championship week, you could have asked me who I thought was going to win it all, and I probably couldn't have told you with any kind of confidence at all. But after that championship weekend, I just kind of look at that Georgia team, and I'm like, they're probably the most well-rounded team if they play their best game. They don't necessarily have an offense that'll like scare you, but if they play solid, they're good enough to score points against good defenses, and they're always a good defense. They're really good on that side of the ball. Um, I don't know. I don't think Ole Miss has got the dogs to hang with the dogs, so to speak, in this one. I think the whole thing just kind of, to me, sets up well for Georgia to make another run at this deal. But they got to go out and prove it too.
I mean, they're gonna have to be well over 30, even 35 points if they want to have a shot there. And I don't know if they can put that up. And I mean, they're not far out from a. We talked about A&M kind of not being able to get to the top of the mountain and beat the teams that they're supposed to beat, or the team I wasn't supposed to beat. And then in Miami case, yeah, but when they play, the elite level teams or the
Yeah,
the upper echelon, they never kind of get over that.
that
And
you
Ole
want to
Miss is
beat.
right. They're one of those teams just like that.
Mm-hmm.
They might beat them. They may beat Alabama in week 4, and then they come back and lose to them, in the conference championship or whatever, or lose to them. They beat Alabama, and then they end up losing to Mississippi State, and then they don't get in there, something like that. So, yeah, they need it's one of those moments where they kind of rewrite. You said the history is hard to overcome, and that's true. And it's, you be like, oh, there's no way, because even it's easy to forget. Like, 4 or 5 years back is about how far fans' memories go, and you're like, oh, they've never won. So that's all you got to do is put 4 or 5 seasons together, and you're the best thing ever. So
Mm-hmm.
Ole Miss needs to at least get something here. And I don't know. I don't think this is like a great Georgia team, but I think they probably have enough to get by this round at least.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So yeah, we'll of course have our thoughts and our official plays out for you as well before we get to those games. So make sure that you are locked in there on the YouTube channel to get those. We always provide those when those roll around. Just so like, subscribe, get the notifications on that channel to be able to get that stuff. I did want to talk a little bit about there hasn't been a lot of other like breaking news, I guess, so to speak, in the college football world as far as coaching, big coaching vacancies or big hires or anything like that here these last few weeks. I've seen some OC stuff that's happened, where guys are leaving one place to go to another, but nothing that's real earth shattering here yet. But I did want to speak to the both of us, obviously, and the teams that we follow have felt this. The portal has become more and more prevalent every year as we've moved along, especially as we've gotten into this new NIL era, it seems. And of course, with the retraction of any restrictions, they can do this whenever they want. So it's just becoming more and more popular. It seems like each and every year. So when something major happens, I understand that there's going to be a lot of this that takes place. Like, when you have a coaching change, like's happened at Iowa State, you're going to have a lot of guys that leave, whether that's because they are going to get that opportunity to go play for the coach that they wanted to play for again somewhere else. That will happen for some of them. Other guys who maybe just, well, that's the whole reason I went to that school in the first place. Maybe I need to look around and look for something else that I feel like is a similar or better fit for me, kind of thing. okay, I get it. I understand the kids' mindsets, and I'm not necessarily blaming them, so to speak, but I do think that at the end of the day, when this starts to happen, of course, news came out this weekend for Iowa State that Rocco Becht is going to enter the portal and leave and go play somewhere else for his senior year. Um, which there's multiple ways you can look at it. I mean, it is a player with 1 year left of so it's not necessarily somebody that's going to come set the tone for your program moving forward, so to speak. But he is a guy that's been a foundational piece of what you've done. And I think if he did decide to stay in Ames and play another year, he's a kind of guy that leaves as a legend. He's remembered forever just for doing that. No matter what happens next year, however he plays, he's still going to be remembered that way. I don't know, unless you're achieving really great things somewhere else, that's not going to be the case of the next school that you go to. So that part of it I struggle with. And then also, I understand too that you're also, as a player, wanting an best opportunity you can to achieve the greatest things. If you have a chance to go somewhere and maybe play for a championship, possibly have a better chance to get into the playoff, which would maybe what in his case what might be the case. Great, I understand that too. And if you feel like it's going to prepare yourself better for the next level, if you have a chance to be a pro, that also. But for some of these other guys too, when you start getting down lower in the roster, it just feels like it's such a lateral move. Like, what are you really changing about your situation? Like, especially if you're a guy who had a pretty good opportunity to play or now is going to because other guys have left. I don't know what that really does for you other than change of scenery type of situation. And at the end of the day, what really sucks is it sucks for the fans. Like it takes away what we loved about college football is the fact that we got to know these guys for a little while. You see them grow up. You see them, get better as a player. And then hopefully the things that they achieve year to year become more and more and greater and greater. And you feel great about that. And you pour into them, you invest into them. And even more so now, people are doing that with their money. So you want to become attached to that player because you're putting something into them. And with that not happening anymore, I mean, you're seeing teams that are totally different teams year to year, even if a coach doesn't leave sometimes. And I just think that sucks, and it takes away from like what the essence is of what we love about college football. And it's morphing into something that's very different. We have less attachment to some of these guys now than we do like watching pro football. Because those guys at least are going to be there a couple of years because they signed that contract. That's going to happen. And that's the part that sucks about it, I guess. That's my little rant. I don't know how you feel about it, SJ, but it's just, I just think that at the end of the day, it really just sucks for fans.
I mean, I think there's definitely truth to a lot of that. The thing with these is like it's not cut and dry. Everything gets settled and the moves actually made. It's like, well, was this a good choice or bad choice? Because you don't know. And then they might go to a better school and have do worse. So then you're like, well, was it really worth it?
Mm-hmm.
Where they think it's a better fit, but then they might go to a lesser school in people's minds and end up putting up some crazy stats and get drafted better than they did before and make more money there. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
so it's more of like when you have, I guess, a little bit of an emotional attachment makes it a little more difficult. Like, and it's probably maybe just age and stuff over time or just get used to this. But I'm kind of to the point where I'm that last thing you said probably rings the most true to like the way I view things. It used to be like, you pay attention to recruiting class coming in once they get their numbers, you like see them in practice, like, oh, that's him, that's him, that's him. And now I'm just like, until they see the field, like I don't even bother act like they're not even on the team until you like
Yeah.
see them in a game. Because how many guys, scope redshirt and then they transfer it without even
Yeah.
like
Never see
doing
the
it,
field.
even like
Yeah.
even in a try, you're like, somebody else. I'd rather go here, do this. So it's not like it's a good thing, but that's just kind of the nature of things. So, and I was also probably maybe a little bit, too cynical, but I just add to it's like, well, if you're gonna leave, whatever, see ya, screw, you
Mm-hmm.
good lucks. You can't be like. There's so many people. When someone transfers, like, oh my, like, just go like, oh, the sky is falling. This is
Mm-hmm.
the end of it. Like, of course, you don't want to lose good players, but if they're not wanting to be there, it's like you. What are you going to do? How are you going to keep them there?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's not that thing.
I get it.
That's not going to. Even if they do, you pay them enough and stay. You're not going to get the best. It's not going to end up in the best terms of all things. So, and also, and when you're talking about these big money quarterbacks, is the investment has to pay off, and it can't be it's now. Like you can't you want to pay you get make millions, you better be winning
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
not down the road. And then you know if certain people asking for you know all these stipulation, we got to have this, got to have that, I want this, I want that. Well, I mean you still got to earn it. So I do like that some of these schools are kind of being like, that's enough. We tried it, didn't work, time to move on.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, I'm good with that. I think you should be able to earn, but you also have to earn it. That's why it's called
Mm-hmm.
earnings. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not just like here you go. You
Yeah.
had a played for had a did well in high school, and maybe your dad's somebody kind of famous, and we'll give you some money, but or I guess uncles and some of these players, whatever their family members are famous, and then they just kind of go off that. But uh, you just kind of have to be like that a little bit, a little bit what am I calling kind of cold hearted to the situation because that's
Mm-hmm.
you just don't can't invest at least emotionally like you did before. And what you want to do with your money, that's up to you if you want to spend or not spend
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
whatever. But I mean that's sometimes those overlap and bleeds into each other because
Mm-hmm.
why would I do this if this guy's just going to be like
Yeah.
screw you in a year or two, like. And that shows you how there was always that facade of like I want to care about this place, I want to be here 4 years, like that was never the reality. It's like they gave me an opportunity to play, I took it, and you should
Mm-hmm.
try to get education while you're there, maybe get a degree, get a job if it doesn't work out. But it's never been I don't there's never been a what do you want to call it, it's not about loyalty or any like love for the school or these posts. I mean it's nice to say thank you for your time, or like the players that say I'll always be a whatever. It's
Yeah.
like, well,
Yeah.
no, that you still be there
Yeah.
if you would if you always be a tiger, always be a bear,
Yeah.
whatever,
Then just
then
do
you
it.
wouldn't be leaving, you dumbass, you'd still be there. So that one does that kind of gets me, but and just respect my decision type stuff. It's all it all kind of goes in the same boat. But
Uh,
uh it's it, and you don't want to be, kind of have, you still want to like enjoy, the entertainment of it, and then be like somewhat invested, but you do definitely have to be like a little more guarded, I think, and just kind of to just take it for what it is. It's not,
mhm.
if somebody leaves, guess what? Just because they left doesn't mean you can't take players from another school too on the other side.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
your players leave your school, you're going to get players too, and you're going to take them from other schools. So
Yeah.
that is one thing. It's a revolving door. Like it
Mm-hmm.
seems bad, but it's not all one way. Like you'll get some benefit out of it too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and at the end of the day, too, there's only so many spots. Like,
Yeah.
and these guys all still want to play, whether they want money too, yeah, but they want to play too. So that's why and we talked about that initially when the whole just like transfer thing. It wasn't necessarily all the money that was being thrown around at the beginning. It was just the transfer thing. Is like this may actually even out some of the playing field a little bit because some of these guys are just they want to go play. They want to go play somewhere else, and that's going to happen. That spreads the talent around a little bit in its own right. Then you throw the money thing in there, and yeah, that's a whole another ball of wax. But that it yeah, I get it. It's gonna come and go. It's just it is just different. I mean, I guess you have to get used to it. It just changes the way that you feel about it, I guess, which is really what sucks. Like, and especially at a place, and I think it's different too for the type of teams that we root for. I mean, yeah, out at USC, do they give a hoot who it is year to year? Probably not that much. Here, you tend to have more of that type of hometown value, so to speak. Like, oh, you're proud of this guy or whatever, and you want him to be around. I think that happens a little bit more here, and that's why it stings when they leave. Um, and I think the other side of it too, like from a coaching perspective, I also have to think that that's got to be so damn hard also because you've learned for so long about, well, we've got to build our program or we've got to put, this in place and you're teaching guys. I mean, hell, that's what Iowa football built themselves off of was like we take these guys that were nobody wanted to recruit and we make them good because we are good at coaching and we're good at getting them in the weight room and all those types of things. Well, how far does that take you anymore? Because it doesn't. They're going to be there and they're gone. So you got to find a way to. Now you're more of a, how the hell do I get these guys to get along in a short amount of time and play well together, and then they're gone again. It's just a whole different mindset, and as a coach, I think that has to suck too, especially if that's the way that you want them to do it.
Yeah, that would definitely a new wrinkle you probably didn't expect, but I guess you get the thing is change with the times or get
Mm-hmm.
passed by. It sucks, but I
Mm-hmm.
mean, these are the same guys that want to tell you don't need water and you can, do whatever.
That's right. Yeah.
Like come on, like I don't, as far as talking about the fans, it sucks for them, and I can I can empathize with that, and also just like the emotions of certain things. But when it comes to the coaches, like screw them, they figure it out, man. Like
Yeah.
you
Well, they
got
get
you got
paid
tons of money,
millions to
but
do it.
you're right. I mean, that's a fair point though. That it is a different. It's not really like coaching anymore. It's more of like everyone calls it CEO. It's essentially
Managing.
what you're
Yeah.
doing.
You're a manager. Yeah. You're not a coach. You're a I don't know, team
You gotta be
sponsor.
like the
So
Phil Jackson and just kind of get all the
yeah.
egos to mesh. I mean, that's kind of what your goal. But I mean, that is. I mean, even when you go back to the lowest levels, there's always the guy that thinks he's the best on the team. So I guess just go back to those days and try to make everybody mesh together however
Hmm.
best you can.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's just a whole new world. It's interesting. Yeah, it does suck for fans for sure. I think, and especially that. I guess the other part of it that hit me a little bit too over the weekend is the fact that, I've got a 10-year-old son that I take to all the games with me, and he's like, I told him the other day, when the news came across about Rocco, and like he face planted into the couch and was like just pissed for like 20 minutes. And it's like, okay, I understand that because I understand why a kid's going to be, pissed about, what the school sold him, like hell, we went to you go to the things around, they do a little tailgate tour for Iowa State athletics. You go to that. They handed all the kids out Rocco Beck jerseys, like they want him to be attached. They want him to be the face of the program. And then, the next year he could be gone. And then that's, you don't want that jersey anymore. So that's the other side of it too. I think that just kind of is a wrinkle that sucks.
I mean, this is probably more of an adult perspective, but maybe you can put some of this wisdom into his, or just kind of have him start taking this perspective. But I'm always like, I hope whoever transfers, if it's supposedly some great, can't miss player, please go to a school that we're gonna play.
Yep.
Then just beat the shit out of them. When then you get your chance, you get your revenge. Because now there's no because it used to be like usually they'd be like you could if you had like a situation where you could transfer without a penalty and not have to like sit out, or even if you did have to sit out here, a lot of the coach would be like, yeah, that's fine, but not within conference. Like a lot of them would kind of block you from going transferring
Mm-hmm.
within the conference.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be the opposite. I'm like, please transfer to the team we play the most
Yeah.
because I want to whoop your ass every time every chance we get. So
Mm-hmm.
I guess I mean now it's probably still a little, raw, but once he,
Mm-hmm.
settles down a little bit, be like, well, hopefully he'll go somewhere where we'll play him and,
Mm-hmm.
get to beat him at least once, if not twice in a season.
Yeah. Yeah. um, at the end of the day, in that particular situation, like if he goes and plays at Penn State, I 100% understand that. I don't fault the kid one bit. Like, yeah, you go play for the guy that you signed up to play for. You've developed a huge relationship with. That's fine. Whatever. Go do that. But if you're just gonna go to another similar program, I don't know. To me, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you're accomplishing. But we'll
Yeah, I
find
mean,
out.
coaching change complicates it, but at the same time, it's like, well, if you're not somehow positioning yourself for a better I guess some type of accolades or even a team, whether it be a award or a personal award or a team, move yourself to the draft or maybe you have a shot to playoff. Other than that, like just to move schools because we see so many players, it's like you basically move to like a like school on the same level.
Mm-hmm.
And other than if in that I think we'll never know, but would clear up a lot of this stuff is if sometimes it's not like I'm just leaving. Someone as a coach is like, this ain't working out. You
Yeah.
best to
Well.
go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I always obviously not in this specific case, but in a lot of them, it's like it's not always just the player wants to leave. It's sometimes like we don't got a spot for you. We got to get some more players in here. You're not
Yeah.
really what we thought you were. You're not so it can't like that has to like not with our conversation, but the overall conversation has to be part of it too, because the players are just with the money, they're just easy to villainize and be like, selfish, whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of times, that's the case, but not always. So
Yeah.
that's part of it too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess that's the harsh reality of the other side of it, is like, yeah, you as a kid can think that you're going to the right place, but then the school could just say, well, we don't want you no more. That it goes both ways
Or
now. So,
a new coach comes in and says, we want to bring our guys in. They might have a transfer. They're already
mm-hmm.
just have to wait for the window to open, and they're going to bring them in that very day.
Yep.
So I mean, it's not always it's not always a player's choice, but it can be. But it's
Hmm.
I guess that's not just not cut and dry, and that's probably the the biggest overall issue. No matter what you want to talk about, the money or the transfer or whatever, it's just there's too much of gray areas.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Obviously we've talked a lot about the different parameters that could be set that at least make this a path the way that this is supposed to happen. I think that's all anybody wants to see, and to make it easier as far as how it shapes up in the calendar and how it affects teams and those kinds of things. Maybe that's going to come still, and that's all we can hope. But definitely a lot of movement, and it has amped up, compared to previous years. I think you're just seeing so much more and more of that, and it just is becoming very much a big turnover for a lot of places every single year. All right, that's kind of what we had on the docket here for you this week. Of course, we will dive deeper into those games as we get closer here to the New Year's holiday. We certainly hope that you and yours have a very happy and Merry Christmas coming up here this next week. I hope Santa's good to you. Maybe he brings you a transfer quarterback, a transfer wide receiver. I hope that's the case for your team.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? You got asked, be do the right thing and be nice, and that's what you get. That's how you get what you want, right? That's what they always
Yeah.
told us as kids, at least.
Yeah, don't be on the naughty list, whatever that means. All right, so we would love it, of course, if you would like, subscribe, share the podcast wherever you may enjoy it. Our host happens to be at Spotify, but you can find us on all the major platforms, whether that be Apple, Amazon, wherever it may be. So just search Every Day We're Covering, or tell your friends to search the same thing, and you'll find us. And then if you would, of course, follow us on social media as well, at SJM Bets, at Cherokee CP. Those are the handles on Twitter. We put out our picks there for you each and every week when we're doing that. We also put up, of course, a little bit more details there sometimes as far as like our confidence levels on picks for the week, what we're kind of looking and peering into, and how we're shaping up. And then if you'd like to have any other conversations about games as they're going on, or picks that you might like, or whatever's happening in the sports world, we'd love to interact with you there. So make sure you're following us there and doing that. And then, as I mentioned before, like, subscribe, get the notifications on the YouTube channel so you can get our picks videos each and every week as well. Before we leave you, I did want to get your quick reaction, SJ. It was pretty big news in the boxing world that Omaha legend Terrence Crawford has decided to hang up the gloves. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, the good news is boxing is retirement is about as it lasts about as long as these these freaking anything that
A
anything
commitment?
in the world of transferring, like as long as these 1 year NIL deals, it's not a
1,000% committed
not
to
a,
retirement, right?
yeah, exactly, yeah. It's nothing anything that, but I mean, if he does, it's understandable because there's not really, considering the weight classes he's been through and where he plans to, where he thought he was going to fight going forward. There's not much really left to do as far as like big names or huge fights or anything. I mean, I was a little bit kind of down on the fact that I was hoping to see like maybe one more fight, in the home state there, and get there in person one more time before it's over. So I wouldn't necessarily like rule that out, because how many, I mean, the boxer retiring is like, whatever, changing their socks.
Mm-hmm.
It's sometimes it's like, please stay retired. In this case, I think you take, a year or two off, and he's going to stay in shape. He's not much of like one of those guys that just goes off partying and kind of gets out of off. So he's pretty disciplined. Obviously, you don't get to that level of,
Yeah.
of success without really, just that's your whole life. So, but I mean, it's understandable, and it's definitely obviously earned. It's not like there's anything left to do. It's just you'd like to see a couple more, especially when it's, you could have a little bit of a, some type of a tie in there, and
Mm-hmm.
want to see a couple more big nights, and then put them on the map a little more. So hopefully, maybe something can work out here. I'm trying to even rack my brain of like somebody that would make sense, and nothing's really coming to mind here. But maybe you have some young cat going to run here over the next 18 months, and maybe make himself worthwhile there, like a Virgil Ortiz at one point was maybe mentioned. So if he can put a couple of big wins together, who knows. But yeah, it was a little bit surprising too, because a lot of these times it's like, it's after the fight, or you kind of see it coming, and this was a little bit out of nowhere. So that
Yeah.
was and I mean, I guess if anything, if the only option was to do the rematch, and I'd say stay retired, because I don't think it really go a different way. And once you've seen it, a little bit of the it's not going to have like the big number, that many viewers, because it's like, whatever. But
Hmm.
I guess some mentioned his name with those YouTube guys, and oh god, I would have loved to see him knock him out, but at least Anthony Joshua got the job done for us there, so that was nice to see. But yeah, I mean, a hell of a career, and hopefully, who knows, I don't. It wouldn't be a thing of a need for money, but just
Yeah.
that itch, man. Once you get to that, I mean, what do you replace that with? I mean, that's a different world. You can't just be like, I'm gonna go, fishing now. I know he's a big fisherman, but ain't no fish out there like a freaking pound for pound title fight.
Yeah, yeah. I was a little disappointed. I saw a couple comments, from some old heads, that were kind of, I guess, giving him the business for not necessarily having as big of matchups, as he went along. But how much of that was actually his fault? The guy was
Well,
trying to fight people all the time, I think. So I don't know that that's his issue, and he proved it out at the end against some of the biggest names that he needed to. So hell of a career, like you said. I think he doesn't have anything to prove to anybody, but yeah, he'll probably come, do at least a couple of exhibition type things to make some coin down the road for sure.
yeah. Why not? I mean, you still can, and it's not much of the reward risk reward thing is well in your favor. So go ahead and make some more money, and give it a little bit of more of a show, and have a hell of a party on top of everything.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's going to wind it down for us this week. We appreciate all your support to make sure you're locked in all those different locations. And yeah, keep your eye out for those picks coming up for the next round of the CFP as well. That's SJ Munoz. I'm Chris Parks. Thanks for joining us for another week of Every Day We're Covering. We'll see you next time for some more covers.